Well, there are a lot of free ways to get deals for real estate investing or wholesaling. Paid marketing still remains a really, really good option to actually find deals. So in today's video, I'm just going to talk about a few of the strategies that I've used or a few of the strategies that kind of generally work for finding deals as a real estate investor. But first of all, if you're new to the channel, my name's Justin, you're wrong, and I've helped hundreds of people make money in real estate. But anyways, first of all, the first strategy that I can think of in terms of finding deals is cold calling. Now, you've probably heard of it before, you probably have tried it, maybe, I don't know. But if you want to find deals, cold calling remains one of the top ways to find real estate deals. And the reason is you get a direct contact and you actually have direct conversations with these homeowners. Like, you actually get to talk to them. Like, it's not like direct mail or anything else like that. It's like you actually get to talk to these people. And it's such a great way to find deals. However, it takes a lot of volume to get them. So, for example, where most people go wrong with the whole cold calling thing, and if you don't even know what cold calling is, they should probably explain that. But cold calling, the term, is essentially calling people out of the blue, calling strangers trying to sell a service. Now, your service as a real estate investor or as a wholesaler is to buy someone's house or essentially get someone's house sold. Well, no, that's a realtor. It's to buy someone's house. That's your service, right? And most of the times whenever you call someone, you're essentially telling them something like, hey, I want to buy your house. Would you consider selling? Would you ever sell it? Like that's the gist of what you're saying. And most of the times the answers of these homeowners will be no, like not at all. Like, I'm happy where I'm at, don't want to sell. And like, those are perfect because what you're doing in cold calling, the whole goal, yes, you want to find deals, but you're trying to disqualify people as fast as humanly possible. You don't want to waste your time talking to all these people who don't actually want to sell. So, for example, a lot of people go wrong is when they start cold calling. They'll get someone on the phone. They'll finally get someone on the phone because maybe they have bad data. But when they get someone on the phone, they're just trying to stretch out the conversation when it doesn't need to be stretched out. You kind of want to get to the point. You want to see if they actually want to sell. So if you ask someone, hey, you're interested in selling, and they're like, no, the next question you do ask is, okay, do you have any other properties for sale, or do you know any other people who might want to sell? Something to that extent to, like, that's how you can extend the conversation. But a lot of people try to drag on the conversation with that person when they know that they're not someone who actually wants to sell their house. So cold calling, it's all about the volume, like in terms of how many dials they're making, what's your talk time look like for actual interested people in selling. And I cold called myself for like a year before ever hiring out cold callers. I probably could have done it sooner as far as hiring out. And my recommendation, if you're just watching this and you're like trying to get ideas, like it works. And of course, it depends on your market, your sales ability, your volume. Like these things all matter in terms of succeeding in cold calling to find deals. But in general, it works. So if you have the good enough data, if you're making enough dials every single day, if you have decent sales ability and you know how to close deals, or even if you don't, but if you just know how to talk to people and you know how to listen and provide solutions, you'll probably do pretty decent at cold calling. Now, in terms of time, you could always approach it in the sense of like doing all the work yourself in the cold calling and all the follow-up calls, because cold calling, it's not just about like the one touch, meaning it's not about making the one call and then expecting them to sell the home to you right away. Like that's not usually how it works. Usually how it works in terms of cold calling is you make a call, they might be interested. Most of the times they're not, but if they are maybe interested, then you kind of talk more to see a little bit about their situation, why they want to sell, all that. And then, maybe that doesn't go well. Maybe it's a follow-up call in a month and maybe they don't answer. And then you call the next week or the next day, whatever it is. You keep following up, and it might take months and months and months until you actually buy someone's home from cold calling. Like, that's the real truth of cold calling. It most of the time, like 99% of the time, like you're not getting it sold the first call unless someone is absolutely desperate and needs to sell their house. So that's how cold calling works. I hired out, like I said, maybe a year after cold calling myself. I got pretty decent at it, and it really allowed me to kind of understand how to hire out and what it took to be a good cold caller, because I did it myself. So it helped me, I guess, fire faster. It's an easy way to say that, for the cold callers who just were not good enough, essentially. But if you have the time or the money, means to do so, I would say try to hire that as soon as humanly possible, because cold calling itself is one of the lower dollar per hour tasks that you can do for your business. Now, as a business owner, you're always trying to spend your time on the high dollar tasks, the things that will actually make you more money. So maybe you can get a virtual assistant, someone from a different area of the world, maybe like a more third world country where they have cheaper labor. You can hire them to work for, at the time of this video, I don't know, like $3 an hour, $5 an hour to make these cold calls. And as soon as they get like prospective sellers, people who actually want to sell, like these motivated sellers, then they can send them to you, and then you can talk to those people so that you don't have to talk to the thousands and thousands of people a day who are not interested, and like essentially not wasting your time, but not being efficient. So you could do that and just talk to the motivated sellers to try to close the deal per se. Or you can kind of stick it out yourself if you're like, no, like I really just want to save my money and I want to try to figure it out myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I did. But I just want to let you know, like, there's different ways out there. There's ways to be more efficient. But with cold calling, great way to find deals. Now, the second way to find deals is texting or SMS. So kind of the same thing applies, whether it's cold calling or texting. The first thing you need to do, first of all, is you need to what's called skip trace homeowners' numbers. Now, if you don't know what skip tracing is, it's basically finding numbers for people, like their phone numbers, based on their name or based on their address or some other thing. Like, it's finding people's phone numbers. And there's actually services to do this, believe it or not. I remember when I first came across it, I was like, is this legal? Like, how come I can just find everyone's phone number in the city? It's like, at one point, I'm like, I think I've called everyone in the city in my market. And that's a funny thing about the real estate investing community is like everyone has called all the homeowners in the city for the most part. But whatever, if you're using texting or cold calling, you have to call or text the homeowners, so you have to have their number. Now, there's a lot of services out there that can do this. You just have to kind of pay attention to see if they're good. Now, I'm not here to endorse anyone. I actually use PropStream for skip tracing people. It essentially, like, it allows me to pull a list of records of homes that I might be interested in based on equity or distressed situations or whatever it is. I could pull a list of people or houses, homeowners, and from there, I could throw it in the PropStream skip tracer, and it brings me back like a bunch of different phone numbers per person. And so from there, me or a virtual assistant can start cold calling these people or texting these people to figure out if they actually want to sell their house. And so it's as simple as that. You just need a good skip tracing service. Now, I know there's PropStream, there's like batch skip, there's like kind skip tracing, there's a lot more, but I really use PropStream mainly. Again, I'm not here to endorse anything. This isn't sponsored, but it's what worked well for me so far. And you just have to find people's numbers. Now, once you find the numbers, that's when you have to focus on the volume. So now we're on the texting. Now, if you're doing texting, a lot of people really kind of overthink everything. So whether they're cold calling or texting, they're like, okay, like what's the perfect script? Like, how do I do this and make sure they sell me their house? It's like, they're not. Like, if they don't want to sell, they're not going to sell it to you. So keep it simple. Like, you're going to learn over time as you try different phrases or words to say, whether you're calling or texting. But the gist of all what you're trying to say is, will you sell your home? Are you planning to sell your home? Do you want to sell your home? I want to buy your house. Like, that's kind of what you're saying. And if you can just get that message across in whatever way is comfortable for you, it'll come across. Like, they'll understand that you're trying to buy their house. That's the gist of what you're saying. But kind of the same thing with texting and in terms of like the cold calling before, is it's all about volume and follow up. Think about it. Like, if you're answering a random text, or if you get a random text from like one of those random numbers, are you gonna be answering it? Because most of the times I don't. Like, if I get a text from a random number and it sounds like it's something that I don't really care for, like, I don't answer, you know? But if someone were to reach out to me via text and like were to ask, hey, would you sell your house? Like, I want to buy this particular house. And I wanted to sell the house, I'd be like, oh, actually, like, yeah, like, what would you buy it for? It's all about timing. It's finding someone at the right time where they need to talk to someone and pitching it to them at that moment. Because you could, for example, you could be texting the same person for 10 months. And every time they're like, no, I don't want to sell my house. No, I don't want to sell my house. Nope, don't want to sell it. But month 11, something happens in their life and they become distressed and they're like, I need money now. And then you text them at that moment and they're like, you know what? Like, yeah, like, what would you offer me? I need to sell this. That's how it works. It's all about the follow-up. So whatever strategy you're using, if it's texting, have some type of, we call it like a CRM, a customer relationship management system. It could be like something online or literally papers to track who you're talking to, what the conversations are looking like, when you're gonna follow up with them. Like when I first started actually with cold calling, I know we're on texting, but when I first started cold calling, I tracked everything with papers, like physical papers. So for example, on the top of the paper, I'd write, this is the homeowner, this is the address, this is the call I had, this is the conversation we had. And then on the paper, I write follow up on next month on this date. And I'd have 12 different file folders. And I'd put the folder, like if I said follow up in April, I'd put that paper in the April folder so that by the time April came, I can open up that folder and be like, oh, I got to call this guy. Like that was my management system. And then now it's all online, which, because there's like services for it, which is really cool. I use Podio, but back then, like you can literally use pencil and paper still. You can still do that. You just have to have some way of tracking who you're talking to, what the conversations are like, when they're planning to sell, and just like following up, like the dates of follow-up. Just don't miss, like if here's where people go wrong. They set follow-up dates. They're like, okay, I'm gonna call this guy back or text this guy back on April 1st. April 1st comes around, don't text him. Next month comes around, don't text them. Like you have to continuously follow up if you want to get deals. That's how it works. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. If you're planning to make money, it's worth it. Now, the next way or the third way you can find deals is door knocking. And this is literally like driving or walking up to these people's doors, knocking on the door and saying, hey, like, would you ever consider selling your house? I'm interested in buying this one. That's kind of what the conversations are like. Now, this is disclosure. I've never door knocked en masse. I've door knocked specific niche spaces because they didn't answer their phone or their texts or their emails. That's when I door knocked. So I don't have the experience to like tell you how door knocking on a mass works, but I've door knocked and it's gotten me deals. Like, for example, I would start with cold calling and texting. I'd call them multiple times, never answered. I'm like, all right, time to door knock. And so I'd have like, for all the people on my list of cold calling list or texting list, for all the people who didn't answer at all, I'd like highlight them and then I'd filter by zip code. I'm like, all right, today I'm gonna go to this zip code. I'm gonna go to all these people who didn't answer my phone calls. I'm gonna knock on their doors and I'm gonna see if they wanna sell. And that, believe it or not, that got me some deals. Now, first of all, if you're gonna be door knocking, just be careful, be safe. Because a lot of people can be sketchy. There's this one time actually where I door knocked. It was kind of in the ghetto, the hood of my market. I'm in Fresno, California. And I knocked on the door. I was freaked out. And good thing I drove there because I can just like run to my car. But I knocked on the door. It might have been like an elderly patient, like an in-home care place, but knocked on the door. I was like, hey, like, can I speak to are you the owner? Like, I'm trying to buy this house, whatever it is. And I hear in the background, this lady is like, you better get, oh, I can't cuss on here. She was like, you better get the F out of my house. Like, I'm going to bring a gun or whatever it is. And I was like, oh, like maybe I should go. And stupid me, like I kept the conversation going. And I was like, hey, like, are you interested in selling? And then she just started to come out and I was like, all right, I'm out. And I went right to my car, drove away. And I was like, all right, not knocking on that house again. So door knocking, just be careful, you know, whether you're a man or a woman. Try not to go honestly super late at night, just safety reasons, obviously. I've had best success door knocking after 5. Like when people get home from work, whatever it is, that's when I've had most success. And it's often like not as hot. So whatever market you're in, yeah, a lot of places, during the day it gets hot. And I have done door knocking where like just to test, at 3 p.m. hot parts of the day. And, people do answer still, but I've just had best results after 5 p.m. So that's how door knocking works. And again, I'm assuming, and it's probably a good assumption, if you're going to be doing door knocking at mass, like without the cold calling or texting, it's volume. So you got to knock on a lot of doors to find these deals. I just kind of like the idea of being efficient with my time door knocking. So I've tried calling them first, texting them first, and if they don't answer, compiling a list of people who I need to knock on their doors. And if they didn't answer, I always just kind of left like a little flyer, like, hey, like I'm here to buy, I buy houses. If you're interested in selling, call me. Like that. Those are the notes I kind of left at people's doors. Now, those are the 3 marketing strategies that have been helpful for me. Hopefully they're helpful for you. And also, if you just want help to grow your real estate investing business, I want you to click on the link in the description below for a free strategy session. But otherwise, peace.